I just think you're moving too fast. I think we're both pretending this is simpler than it is.
I'm not scared.
Most people would have just walked by.
Most people weren't paying attention.
I dropped my groceries. He helped me pick them up, then changed my entire life. The groceries that changed everything. A story about the moment. Fate drops everything at your feet. The summer I turned 28. I had exactly 3 things going for me. A rent-controlled apartment in a quiet suburb of Columbus, Ohio. A job I didn't hate, receptionist at a physical therapy clinic. And a grocery list that never seemed to get any shorter. That's it. That was my whole life. I wasn't miserable. I want to be clear about that. I wasn't sitting around crying into my cereal every morning. I was just existing, going through the motions. Wake up, work, grocery store, dinner alone, Netflix until my eyes burned. Sleep, repeat. My name is Maya Calloway, and I had convinced myself that this was enough. My best friend Jess didn't agree. You've been on exactly 0 dates in 14 months. She told me over the phone one Thursday evening. 0, Maya. Not 1. That's not a dry spell. That's a drought. That's the Sahara Desert of your love life. I've been busy, I said. You watched an entire documentary series about competitive cheese making last weekend. I didn't have a response to that. It was a Saturday in late July when it happened. One of those thick, golden afternoons where the air smells like cut grass and the whole neighborhood feels half asleep. I had 4 grocery bags, -2, in each hand, and I was walking up the front path of my building when one of the paper bags just gave up. The bottom split clean open, oranges rolled. Cans clattered, a loaf of bread flopped onto the sidewalk like it was surrendering. My bottle of spaghetti sauce hit the concrete edge and I grabbed for it, lost my balance, and went down on one knee, trying to catch everything at once and catching nothing. Hey, hey, let me help. I looked up. He was already crouching beside me, reaching for an orange that had rolled toward the bushes. Dark hair, gray t-shirt, jeans with an actual grass stain on the knee. Strong hands, the kind of face that wasn't trying to be handsome, but was anyway, minus a little stubble. Laugh lines already forming at the corners of his eyes, even though he couldn't have been older than 30. He handed me the orange with both hands, like it was something worth being careful with. Rough day, he asked, not unkindly. Rough bag, I said. He laughed. A real one, not polished, not practiced, just genuine. His name was Caleb Merritt. He'd moved into the unit next to mine 3 weeks ago, and I had somehow, in 3 full weeks of being neighbors, never once noticed him. We collected my groceries together off that hot sidewalk, minus him handing things up, me stacking them back into the surviving bag and the whole time we just talked. Not small talk, not weather talk, real conversation. The kind that sneaks up on you before you've had time to build your guard back up. He'd just come back from 18 months in Portland, where he'd been helping his younger sister through a difficult divorce and raising her 2 kids alongside her while she got back on her feet. He'd put his own career, landscape, architecture on hold, to do it. That's a long time to put your life on pause, I said. He shrugged, handing me the last can. It wasn't really a pause. It was just a different chapter. Something about the way he said it sat with me all evening. We started bumping into each other, the way neighbors do when they're both quietly hoping to. Morning coffee. In the hallway. Passing on the stairs. One Friday night, I knocked on his door to ask if he had a can opener. Mine had broken and we ended up standing in his kitchen for 2 hours, eating pasta out of mismatched bowls, and talking about everything and nothing. He was easy to be around. That was the thing. There was no performance with Caleb, no pressure. He didn't try to impress me. He just showed up, exactly as he was. And somehow that was more disarming than anything practiced could have been. By August, we were taking evening walks around the neighborhood, without either of us officially suggesting it, it just became a thing we did. He'd knock on my door around 7. I'd already have my shoes on, but I kept waiting for the catch. Because there is always a catch, right? There is always the moment the curtain pulls back, and you see the reality underneath the charm. I'd been there before -2 years with a man who turned out to be deeply in love with his own potential. And not much else. A situationship that dragged on for 8 months before I finally named what it was. I had learned, the hard way, to wait for the catch, so I kept half a step back. Kept one wall up, laughed easily but didn't lean in. Caleb noticed. He didn't say anything for weeks, but one evening in early September, we were sitting on the front steps of our building after a walk. The sky going, that deep watercolor orange that only happens in late summer, and he said quietly, almost to himself, "You do. That thing where you start to trust something and then pull back before it can disappoint you." I looked at him. "I'm not criticizing," he said quickly. "I do it too. Or I used to. I can see it." The door opening and then closing again. I didn't know what to say, so I said the truth, which I almost never do in those moments. "I just don't want to be naive again." "That's different from being careful," he said. We sat with that for a while. It was a week later that everything shifted. We were at a small rooftop gathering, minus a friend of his. A mix of people I didn't know. There was music and string lights, and someone had brought an absurd amount of charcuterie. I was having a good night, genuinely, laughing at a story someone was telling, when I caught Caleb watching me from across the rooftop, not in a strange way, in a warm way, like I was something he was glad existed in the world. He walked over. "You look like you're actually having fun," he said. "Don't sound so surprised." I'm not surprised. I'm just glad. We ended up in the corner of the rooftop, away from the music. The city lights spread out below us, and I don't even remember how the conversation turned. But at some point, I said it half joking, half meaning it, "Caleb, honestly, you're too good for me." He went quiet for a moment. Then he looked at me directly. No deflection, no laughing it off and said, "That's why I chose you." I blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said slowly, "that I'm not interested in someone I can coast with. I'm interested in someone who makes me want to be more careful, more honest, someone worth the effort of actually showing up." He paused. "You think I'm too good for you? I think you just haven't let yourself be seen in a long time." I didn't cry. I wanted to. A little, but I didn't. What I did instead was something harder and braver. I stopped pulling back. We weren't perfect. I want to be honest about that because this isn't that kind of story. There were misunderstandings minus real ones, not dramatic ones. There was a week in October when I got scared again and picked a fight about something that didn't matter, and both of us knew it. There was a conversation we had to have, a real one, about what we each needed and what we were each afraid of. But Caleb didn't flinch from any of it, and I slowly, imperfectly stopped flinching too. By December, I had a key to his apartment. He'd started keeping his coffee on my shelf. Because he was, over every morning anyway, my best friend Jess, who had never once approved of anyone I'd dated, called him the most emotionally available man I've ever witnessed, and said it like an accusation. I took it as a compliment. The thing nobody tells you about real love is that it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand gestures or a moment so cinematic. You know it's the one. It arrives in ordinary light on a hot sidewalk, with spilled oranges and a split paper bag. It arrives in a gray t-shirt with grass on the knee. It arrives in the quiet way someone hands you something carefully, like it matters. It arrives, and you almost miss it, because you've been so busy bracing for the catch. I think about that Saturday afternoon, sometimes minus the bag splitting. The groceries scattering, me on one knee on the hot concrete, feeling ridiculous. And I think, what if I had been faster? What if I'd scooped everything up myself before he reached me? What if I had refused the help? I don't let myself go too far down that road, but I let myself feel grateful that I didn't, because the groceries fell, and he crouched down, And something in me, minus some quiet, cautious, half-buried part of me, minus decided, for once, to let someone help. That's where it started. On a sidewalk, in the sun, with oranges rolling toward the bushes, and it hasn't stopped since. If this story reached something in you, minus something you've been holding on to, or holding back, minus share it with someone who needed to hear it today. And if you're still waiting for your sign to let the right person in, maybe this was it.